Hello, everybody. It's Romania Black. We're on episode 7 of Free Dive to the Future, and we're officially past the halfway point. Last episode gave us so much insight into Hiyori's backstory, why he's making the decisions that he's making, his connection with Ikuya that seems to travel a lot farther back than I originally thought, like since they were in elementary school and then meeting back up in high school in America and then coming back over here into Japan. And so we've gotten that all set up. We've got Mako as a coach at the local swimming pool, and he's meeting back up with Now. Now seems like he's going to go tattle on Hiyori to Natsuya, so that should be exciting. And then in the midst of all this, we finally get confirmation finally that our mysterious dark-haired man that has a food blog is Ryuji, and he is a former competitive swimmer that was swimming against Mihail, who, funny enough, Mihail's with Rin and Ryuji wants to help Haru, so history repeating itself, right? But I'm really curious. I've just noticed, you'll notice in the thumbnail, I've just realized that in the thumbnail, which is the poster for season 3, Mihail and Ryuji are side by side and their backs are turned to everyone else. Kind of like they're in a different world, which they technically were. They're from a different swimming time. So that's really exciting. I am curious to know what all is going to happen between Ryuji and Haru, because we've seen Mihail and Rin's dynamic, and it works. It's weird, but Mihail's kind of like Go, so it kind of, Rin's like, I've been used to this my whole life, so I'm fine with it. They seem to be okay. They seem to respect one another. Haru, Haru likes, in previous season, Haru's done things his way, and people have just kind of had to adapt to him. And I've been pleasantly surprised that Haru's grown as a character over this current season. So I'm curious how he's going to interact with Ryuji as a coach in that dynamic if he decides to go that route. So lots of things to be excited about. I'm really, really curious what they're going to do this episode. Last episode was solely focused on Hiyori and Ikuya, and then we had everybody kind of else in the background. So I'm curious now that we're out of that flashback episode phase, what we're going to do transitioning back to the rest of the story. So it's called the Solitary Medley, which I connect to Ikuya because he does the individual medley, which is solitary. But it could also reflect on Haru, it could reflect on Ryuji, it could reflect on a lot of things. So mainly I'm just excited to see what happens, but I've got my bingo card, I have my stamp, I am ready to go. So let's do this. We are going to start Free Dive to the Future episode 7, a solitary medley, here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay. Oh my goodness. What was this episode? This was amazing. I have so many thoughts. And I'm so excited. I can't tell you how hyped I am for episode 8. But believe me, it's a lot. Holy crap. Okay. I want to go back through this episode because so good. The one thing I've really liked about this season is that this show has done a really, really good job this season of incorporating all of these new characters and blending them into the plot and having the plot require them to be there. I think the only downside, and I can see a lot of people being upset with this, is that because we've now transitioned our main character, Naruto. I was going to say Nanase and Haru together, and it came out Naruto. That's great. Haru, since he's our main character, the characters he's with in college kind of become the forefront of this season. And so I could see people being dissatisfied. If your favorite characters are Rei and Nagisa, then I could see you being a little bit sad because we don't get a lot of Rei and Nagisa so far this season because they're still trapped in high school with the others. And so I'm excited this episode that it seems like we're going to get something more with them when they go to the All Invitational, which we know now that at least Haru and Asahi have qualified for. So there's a reason for all of our characters to go watch, including Kasumi, which we'll talk about him this episode, because he was adorable. But I could see you being disappointed with the season if Rei and Nagisa were your main favorite characters, because they kind of have taken a back seat this season because they're still in high school. Now, when they do the movie that are coming up, or the movies that are coming up, maybe since Rei and Nagisa will have graduated, we'll get more with them. I don't know. I'm only on episode 7 of the season, so I don't know how the rest of the season is going to go. But if this is starting us off in the second half of the third season, this is amazing. This episode was great. This may be one of my favorite episodes of this season because it's really, really been good, and it has justified things I've been talking about that I've wanted to see happen, and they're finally happening, and I'm so excited by this. But I talked in the OP about Ryuji, and I originally can see how Mako would be kind of concerned. One, because this shady dude's been following them around the whole time, basically trying to beg Haru to have him help coach. But also, Mako's kind of like, you're doing private lessons. Can you afford that? Is that okay? Like, should we trust this guy? And Mako, Mako being the adult of the group is like, should we trust this man? And I'm very glad that it didn't turn out to be something melodramatic where Ryuji was legit sketch. I'm glad that Ryuji just kind of looks sketchy because he's wearing that trench coat and has a cheap bicycle and is eating soba chips the whole time like a weirdo. He's just odd. But I like that it didn't turn out to be something melodramatic, that it was actually him training Haru and it all worked out. I'm glad that the show didn't give us any useless melodrama like that, because we have enough melodrama in this season. We didn't need any more with Ryuji. So I appreciate that a lot. He's kind of like Natsuya, where he just kind of wanders, and I really want to see if they go to the All Invitational, which we know they are now. I want to see Mihail and Ryuji meet up again and reunite. And what will that be like? I want to see these things. So, we have a lot going on this episode, and there are so many moments that I'm so glad we got to, because I was like, thank God we finally are getting there. Let me say, first of all, Kasumi. I absolutely love that. I'm assuming he's not on scholarship. I'm assuming that Kasumi just joined the basketball club to do something athletic for fun, because the dude, when does he practice? He's never at practice. He's at Asahi's sister's cafe waiting on his friends. He's hanging out and being extra. And I absolutely love Kasumi. I love the supportive character that he has been in this series. He's just that guy that he's not a swimmer. He's just like, hey, I'm your friend. I'll help you, drive you to places. And honestly, he would fit right in with the Asahi family. He's got the pink hair. The sister has the reddish hair. Asahi has red hair. The baby's hair is brown, but it's kind of auburnish. Like, Kasumi, you fit right in. And the baby clearly loves you. So I love that Kasumi's like, children love me. And he's like, because he's so cinnamon rolly and adorable. And Asahi just rolls on in, and is like, sup, Kasumi. And, I ship them so hard. Asahi and Kasumi, I ship them so hard. I love their dynamic. It's so wonderful. And his sister's like, oh my God. So yeah, I like that we get, and the baby playing with Kasumi's face, adorable. So I like that Mako in this is supportive of Haru wanting to rekindle the friendship. Again, we talked last episode about how Hiyori was doing things kind of like Mako, but in a toxic, non-productive way. And this episode kind of illustrates the appropriate way to do it, which Mako's like supportive of Haru trying to rekindle his friendship with Ikuya and mend all those fences. Ikuya. Ikuya is very self-destructive and has issues. He has got some mental, psychological issues that he needs to work through. And I'm going to get on to Natsuya this episode. I love Natsuya. I love his character so much. But I'm like, dude, now is right. You have got to step up and be the big brother here. And I cannot tell you how happy I was to hear now give him the what for. I was like, now you are preaching to the choir. Thank you for being here. But, I mean, there's clearly a rift between Hiyori and Ikuya right now. And they say it's not a fight, but it's clearly... But when Hiyori says, when Ikuya says, I don't know if Hiyori is my friend anymore, to Asahi, I'm like, he is your friend. It's just, okay, I will say this. I'm looking at the episode right now, and it's where they're all gathered outside, and Ikuya decides to go to eat with them, and Hiyori says no. Here's the thing. I have been in Hiyori's shoes in that situation where I've had friends be like, hey, let's go hang out, and I just don't feel like it. I'm like, no. I'm kind of I may not seem like it, but I'm actually very introverted. I'm kind of a homebody. I don't like getting out. Don't like big crowds. I don't care for big parties. I like small gatherings of like 2 to 3 people, and that's it. I'm like big crowds. I'm like, ugh. Because I always feel like I have to like project energy all the time, be like, ugh. And I'm not an extrovert naturally. I like talking, but I get like wore out in big crowds. I'm like, ugh. So I'd rather be like next to 1 or 2 people than to be in a giant room full of people. So Hiyori obviously doesn't feel good. He doesn't feel like he's in a good place right now either. So him saying that he doesn't want to hang out with people, I totally relate to that. 100%. And of course Ikuya, because he doesn't want to hang around Hiyori, is like, nah, I'm going to go with you guys. They just need to talk it out. Ikuya, you just need to talk it out. And Asahi tried this episode. I'm so glad that him and Asahi saw each other. They tried to talk it out, but Ikuya is kind of self-destructive. Like and he relates a lot to Sousuke in this episode where he says, I want to grow strong. I have to grow stronger so I don't have to rely on anybody. And that's kind of like, it's similar to Sousuke in a way, because Sousuke's whole deal was that he didn't want to swim in the relay because he wanted to be responsible for his own failures and his own success. But here's the thing. Sousuke was just not participating in medleys and relays because it didn't have any ties to his personal health. He was just doing it for his own, reasons. He just didn't want to be responsible. Whereas Ikuya is tying this to his very well-being. Like, it's tied to his physical and mental health. Whereas Sousuke, it was more tied to, like, his pride and his relationship with others. Ikuya is tied to himself. This whole concept of doing everything by himself. And so that's destructive, and it's not healthy. And I like that other people are trying to reach to him and say, hey, we're all in this together. You don't have to do this alone. And Ikuya it's just not getting through. And I think that it doesn't help that he had that argument with Hiyori. And so now the one person that he has been kind of relying on subconsciously, whether he realizes it or not, isn't there for him right now. And so that's just made it worse. And I hate that he's like, no one's been there to save me. And I'm like, Ikuya, Haru saved you that one time. Hiyori has jumped in to save you that we know of. Haru has tried to reach out to you. Hiyori, for all of his misguided attempts, is at least trying to be there for you. I mean, people are trying to be there for Ikuya, whether or not they're going about it in the best manner. People are trying to be there for Ikuya, and he's just not getting it, or it's not coming through. And I'm like, do we just need to sit there and have them just hug you and shake you until it makes sense? I'm like, I get Ikuya has all of these psychological problems that he needs to work through, and I feel really bad for Ikuya because I want him to work through them and get healthier. But I also want to kind of shake him and be like, there are people trying to reach you, and they don't want you to be alone. You need to see that. And it's just, and this is where Natsuya comes into the whole thing, because Natsuya is family. He's his brother. He's his only brother. And he's been with him, up through high school. And we'll talk about Natsuya here in a second. I want to get to the now conversation. I do want to comment before I move on to that, is that I'm looking at the part here where Mihail has the bag of chips with Mako. And I like that he's giving Mako this big speech about how Haru, like, tapping into animal instinct and getting better and everything. And Mako's like, by the way, you can't have food in here. And the way he says it is, he's like, it's the most, like, passive aggressive, you're not supposed to eat and drink around the pool. And their eyes, like, slowly connect with one another. And he's like, sorry. like, Mako is so passive aggressive, but it's like that orca killer whale where he's like, don't eat or drink by the pool, put it away. It's like, I loved that part. That was amazing. And then the close-up on their eyes. So, okay. Now, and Natsuya. Okay. So I am glad that last episode, my whole thing was that I was concerned that Natsuya wasn't stepping up. I was like, Natsuya, you're his brother. You know Ikuya is not in the best place mentally all the time. You know your brother has issues. He's had physical issues, health issues. You know he's not in a good place because Hiyori's been telling you he's not in a good place. And Hiyori's kind of been sugarcoating it a bit, being like, oh, don't worry, we're working on it. It's fine. But at some point, I'm like, you have to go see him and check in with him. For someone that travels all the time, you need to make time to see your brother, especially if you have the means. And so I like that Natsuya is like, hey, I'm in Tokyo. Do you want to meet for dinner? And he was meeting with Nao, so that would have been the perfect opportunity for Ikuya to hear all this from Nao's perspective, because Nao's talked with Haru and the others. But Ikuya, of course, because he's not feeling great at the time, is like, nah, I'll pass. And when he says, I don't know about his condition, it's like, okay, Natsuya, you can connect the dots. You know from what you've talked to Hiyori, and you know from talking to your brother right now, and you know that Natsuya knows that Ikuya's not in a good place because he starts talking about, oh, well, if you're not in good shape, just, you can do the All Japan next year. It's okay, you're just a freshman, it's fine. So Natsuya knows Ikuya's not in a good place either. But my thing is, I'm like, Natsuya, go to your brother. Go to his apartment. Like, I know you said you were going to show up at the Invitational, at the championships, whether he liked it or not. So what's the difference with that and showing up to his apartment? I know there's a difference, but you're his brother. Like, it's fine if you show up because you're family and your brother needs you right now. He needs somebody. He's isolated and he's not in a good state mentally. And so I was so frustrated in this conversation with him. And Ikuya and Hiyori both think that they're the Little Mermaid, and they both think that they're going to turn into sea foam. And so they both have this concept of kind of fading away, either disappearing. With Hiyori, it's disappearing from Akuya's life, and for Ikuya, it's just disappearing altogether. It's not having a sense of purpose or belonging. He's like, I needed to get stronger to prove to myself that I didn't need anyone. And if he's not getting stronger, then it's not proving his point. And he's like, what if I'm wrong? And then it's like throwing his whole, like, he's having an existential crisis right now at age 20. So they both have this fear. I do like that Natsuya goes out of his way to meet Nao at the bar. Like, hey, just got here. And I like that they say they haven't seen each other since drinking age. So Natsuya's like, this is the first time I can get drunk around you. But you know what? MVP Nao. I freaking love Nao because everything Nao told Natsuya in this scene that I'm rewatching right now is exactly what I wanted someone to tell Natsuya. I like that Natsuya gets in the tea souvenir, and it's so appropriate because it's like, Natsuya's like, oh, thanks for these tea leaves. Now I'm going to spill the tea. Because here's the thing. I like how Nao is very serious in this moment. Like, Natsuya is a very, like, easygoing, jokey character. He's like, oh, it's cool, it's fine, you know. Ikuya's just training, it's all good. And Nao's like, hey, I've talked to some other people who have been trying to get a hold of Ikuya, and it's not going well. And so I like that Nao's like, are you going to go find him and talk to him? What are you going to do? And then, yeah, here's the thing. In true anime fashion, the very anime trope, Natsuya's like, I trust him. I could go talk to him, but it's not going to make a difference. I trust my brother. I believe in him. I know that he'll make the right decision. Things will work out. It was a very stereotypical speech that a sibling or a loved one of a character would say to leave the character on their own to their own devices and let them work it out. Like, that was such an anime trope. And I love the animation on Nao's face. Like, Nao's face, he's like you could just see him being physically disappointed with Natsuya's answer. Like, oh. Huh? And Natsuya's like, I know he'll be okay. If anybody can make it to the global stage, it's Ikuya. And I love Nao's response. He's like, Natsuya, that may sound impressive, but maybe it's time you took a serious approach yourself, both to swimming and to Ikuya. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Preach to the choir. Like Nao saying exactly what he needs to say, because Natsuya has been swimming freelance. He's been avoiding competitive swimming. He's been essentially kind of avoiding his future because, yeah, he could spend the rest of his life just going from swim meet to swim meet. But is that really what he wants? I don't know. He went to Mihel for coaching, and Mihel thinks that's not really what he wants. So I love the fact that now is like, you need to get serious because your brother needs you. You need to not just leave him to his own devices because that's not what you do with somebody that's in a fragile psychological state. You go and support them and help them and make sure they get the resources they need. And now it's like, you need to do this. Now is very much Mako in this moment. Like, I could see where Mako has learned from Now Senpai. Oh my God. That conversation was exactly what I have been wanting in this show for like the last 3 episodes. Ever since we had episode 3 where Natsuya shows up in Australia, ever since we've had that episode, I've been like, Natsuya, you need to go see your brother. And now has finally been like, you need to step up and be a sibling and prove that you care as much as you say you do. And it's like, oh, it's just all the feels. I absolutely love it. And I like that. I didn't notice this before, but we have Sousuke's home. Do we see like his home? Yeah, we see he's by a harbor. He's by the harbor, and he has this little home. It's like this little 3-story house, which I'm assuming like his whole family lives in because his cousin lives there too. So I'm assuming like it's like a family compound, like they all live there. I love the cousin. Sousuke's family seems so supportive, and they're just like, "Hey, bro. Hey, cuz," and they kind of like just tease each other, but it's nice. And I like that the cousin's like, taking the long road is okay if it's to get to your goal. Like, sometimes you have to do that. And I like that he says, whatever you decide to do, don't back down from it, like commit to it. And I like that Sousuke is like, no, I'm serious. I know what I want now. I'm going to go for it. It's like, and believe in yourself. It's like, I love this family dynamic. I just love Sousuke's family in that little moment. And it's like he's got his clothes gathered up like he's preparing to go to have this surgery because he knows he's going to have to recuperate while he's over there. So I really like that. And he's got like 7 or 8, so I'm assuming it's like a week-long thing where he's going to be there for a while to recover. And we come back to Kasumi picking up Mako. And I have to say, I've not seen an anime in a long time that has realistically portrayed waiting on friends. To go somewhere. I love that Kasumi can get away with kind of harassing his friends because he's so genuinely nice and kind-spirited. So when he's like, Mako, I waited on you. What took you so long? Like, I've been like that with my friends too, where I've been like, come on, let's go. And Mako's like, I'm sorry. It's like, oh, like I absolutely love it. And Mako's like, it's sorry, it took me a while to get ready. Like, that's so realistic. I love this show when it adds realistic little moments like that because it's so slice of life and, like, you see that happen. And it's like, And I like that Kasumi's like, what can I do to help? Because he's like, I'm not a swimmer. What can I do to help you guys with Ikuya? Because he's my friend, too. And Mako's like, well, just have faith and keep an eye on us. And Kasumi's like, that's what I do anyway. So it's so wonderful. I absolutely love it. I love Kasumi's character. In this episode, I was like fangirling so much for Kasumi because I was like, oh, look at you, man. Look at you doing your thing. So yeah, so we have the All Japan Invitational, and I didn't realize we've had Natsuya in this show this whole time since starting days. I didn't put 2 and 2 together that none of our Iwatobi kids have seen Natsuya since middle school. They haven't. Rin has met Natsuya. Sousuke has met Natsuya. Samazuka has met Natsuya. They've all seen him, but none of the Iwatobi guys have. So when Natsuya's like, hey guys, what's up? Asahi's reaction is very genuine. He's like, Natsuya senpai. And it's like, oh. I just absolutely love that Natsuya's so casual around him. And it's such a contrast because when they last saw him in starting days, Natsuya was kind of like the drill sergeant coach. And now Natsuya is completely the opposite of what he was. He's very laid back and kind of like casual. And again, here's the thing. Haru says Ikuya is not at his best right now. But And Natsuya stops him. He's like, I know, you don't have to say anything. It's like, okay, Natsuya, you've heard it from like 4 people now that Ikuya's not in good shape. Go do something. So I'm just waiting for Natsuya to have that face-to-face conversation with Ikuya. It's not happened yet, but I'm just waiting for it. And I don't mean to get down on Natsuya. I love Natsuya as a character. I really do. And I don't mean to get down on him, but they're building up Natsuya meeting Ikuya again, and I just need it now. And so I appreciate characters like now that are kind of pointing out the importance of this moment when he does meet up with Ikuya. And I just hope it goes over well, because I'm like, Ikuya needs his brother and needs support right now. So I find that Ryuji in the conversation with Asahi's brother-in-law, when he's like going to the soba chips, I feel like Ryuji is kind of like Haru in a way, because Haru gets hyper-focused on like mackerel and hyper-focused on swimming, and I feel like Ryuji's kind of like a weird version of Haru in that sense, because he's so hyper-focused on like one thing at a time. That's interesting. And then of course the brother-in-law is like, nah, I don't need this. Also, sweet man bag by Katsumi. I'm just saying, that messenger bag, top notch. Kasumi does not come unprepared. He's like, backpack? Messing up my back? I don't think so. So yeah, they get to watching the scenes for the championship. We cut back to Rei and Nagisa, and I like that little callback. It's all reminding us that yes, Nagisa and Rei will connect back with Haru and Mako by the end of this season, because they're all going to the Japan Invitational. And goes like, and Rin made it too. So it's like, oh, well, Rin and Haru are going to swim. I'm wondering now if Rin and Haru are going to swim with Ikuya. If Ikuya makes it to there, if they're going to do that. What if... Well, but Rin didn't do individual medley. Rin just did freestyle and butterfly. So he's at least going to be in the freestyle with Haru, which is, of course they are. Of course. I just want Rin and Ikuya to meet and talk, because I think that out of everybody, I feel like since Ikuya is avoiding his brother because he doesn't want to make his brother sad or doesn't want his brother to feel like he's not proud of him. So he's avoiding his brother. Ikuya is avoiding Hiyori because they've just had issues. Ikuya is avoiding Haru, Asahi, and Mako because he doesn't want to admit everything that's happened in the past. He thinks he can move on from it. So Ikuya has all these ties with these other characters, and he doesn't want to deal with them right now because he doesn't want to have to deal with his past and coming to grips with all of those things moving forward. So I feel like it'd be really good if Ikuya met Rin, because Ikuya and Rin have no history. Ikuya and Rin have no past prior engagements with one another. So Rin would be a very fresh perspective for Ikuya to talk to. And also, Rin has gone through the same thing kind of that Ikuya has. Except Rin's whole deal was Rin wanted to be in a relay with people. Rin wanted to compete with people. He just didn't know what to do about it. And Akuya's kind of doing the opposite, where he just is trying to avoid people instead. So I feel like Rin would be a good person for Ikuya to talk to and get a perspective on. And also Rin and Ikuya have that history with Haru that Hiyori makes fun of Haru for. So I feel like that would be a good chance for them to talk to each other and compare. And Rin can be like, look, I went through the same thing after Haru, and I had our issues. But look at what I've done. I've worked through it, and I can help you work through it. Like, I think Rin and Ikuya meeting would be really cool. I love the sister of Asahi clutching the baby's hand. She's like, come on, Asahi. Like, that baby is such a perfect little blend of them. It's so cute. Yeah, so Hiyori made it to All Invitational 2, doing the freestyle. And so did Asahi, so that's exciting. And Asahi was going to do the butterfly. I don't know... Or no, he was getting ready to do the butterfly. And I love that Asahi has the little book, like the mental fortitude. Like, how do I keep my mental fortitude? I love that. I just love that Asahi is doing those things, like self-care. Self-care, hashtag self-care for Asahi. Like, I'm so glad that he's doing that. And it's like, Ikuya, you could take a page out of Asahi's book too. Oh my God. And then the scene where Asahi sees Ikuya again that was so well done. So well done, his reaction being like, Ikuya, finally, yes, I'm a Tensai. And so oh my gosh, their conversation, again, just like the Now and Natsuya conversation, their conversation is exactly what I wanted in this season so far. And I'm glad Akuya got to hear it. I'm glad that everything was settled. And I'm glad that Asahi, even though he apologized afterwards, I'm glad he's like, that four-eyed jerk kept getting us in our way from seeing you. Because now that Akuya knows that for certain, that he can talk to Hiyori about that and be like, look, I talked to Asi and he told me what you said. And yeah, I was kind of complicit in too, but I feel like not Natsuya, I feel like Ikuya is being somewhat gaslit by Hiyori, and you can kind of tell it here where he's like, oh, Hiyori's a nice guy. But as he says that, he's still having conflicting feelings about him, so there's a little gaslighting there. And Asi's like, ugh. He's like, I didn't mean to badmouth your friend, but I'm also worried about you. And then Akuya's like, I'm not sure if he's my friend. I can't tell anymore. And when he says this line, I hit a wall, and it made me see a weakness in myself in America that I notice. Instead of depending on others, I want to swim and get stronger on my own. And it's like we get it, but he's like, I'm not sure what friends and teammates are to me anymore. Because from Akuya's perspective, having friends and teammates has led to him having pain. Because he had that pain of his teammates leaving him, and he's had that pain of his teammates arguing with him and his friends arguing with him and trying to convince him to act a certain way. So of course Akuya's perception of what friends and teammates are right now isn't the best thing. But I love that Asi's like, I'm still going to be your friend. He's like, I'm sorry my dad transferred. And the fact that it all makes sense now why Asahi was so upset, because he transferred while, I'm assuming that Ikuya and Natsuya went to America over spring break to look at schools, they were going to move over there. And so while he was gone, Asahi left, so they never got to say goodbye to one another. So it's like, oh, okay, well, no wonder you feel bad. You guys never got to have closure. And so I love that Asahi's like, I still am your friend. No matter what happens, I still want to be your friend. And I don't want you to feel like that's not true. And it's like, ugh. It's like that's all you wanted to hear them say. And he's like, I know Haru and Makoto feel the same way. And Ikuya's like, thanks. And Asahi's like, well, wait, I'm not done. He's like, And Akuya's like, in the pool, I'm alone. No one's going to save me. And Asahi's like, but we're there for you. Otherwise, it won't be me anymore. So yeah, I was like, Ikuya, yeah, you are swimming alone, but also you're not alone. And oh my gosh, like I said, I don't know why I didn't put two and two together. I don't know why I didn't. For some reason, I thought that the coach was just helping Haru get better at swimming. My brain did not put two and two together. So when Haru shows up on the other side of him, I was like, wait, what are we doing? And yes, Haru steps up right beside him and is like, get ready, bitch. I'm going to swim individual medley with you too. This is the only way I can swim with you. Don't say you can do it all alone. Because you can't. You're not alone. It's like, ah! I love it so much. Oh, and Ryuji's like, let's see what this training did. So it's like, oh my god. It's such a great callback to the very start of the season when Haru's like, I've been practicing other strokes to get better. Kind of like the whole Ray thing. I've been practicing to get better. And because I know that I have to go to the global stage, I have to be better than just free. I like that Haru took what Ray told him and has improved on it and actually followed through. It's like, wow, you took your Kohei's advice. And then of course, the episode has to end. The episode ends with them jumping in the water. Of course it does. It's such a callback to season 1. I just... What a hype ending. What a cliffhanger. That's been one of the best. That has honestly been, in my opinion, one of the top 5 best cliffhangers in this whole damn series. Has been that. The episode 7 in season 1 where Rin was standing above Haru in the pool and announced that he wasn't going to swim free anymore. That cliffhanger was amazing. there's been some really good cliffhangers this season where it's just like ended and you're like, and then gosh, I'd have to go back and think of the other cliffhangers, but this one is definitely right up there, maybe in the top three. Like, just I was gonna say in was it season 2 or season 1 even, when Haru and Rin were jumping about to compete. No, it was when Haru was doing his swimming in the relay and was about to jump in and Rin was watching him. It's like that cliffhanger. That was wonderful too. But this one's right up there. Oh my gosh. What a hype ending. Oh. So the question is Ikuya going to make all invitational? Is he going to swim? I'm assuming he will. I'm assuming Haru, it's either going to go one of two ways. Either Haru is going to be the healing force to get him back in the groove, and his competition with Haru is kind of going to be kind of like him and Rin. It's going to spurn Ikuya to swim better, and they're both going to make the invitational. I guess it could go one of three ways. It's either going to do that. It's going to spurn Ikuya. This is the extreme version of this. It's going to spurn Ikuya to swim really good, and Haru is not going to make the invitational with his time for individual medley, but Ikuya will. So it's either going to do one of those two things. It's either going to go in a positive route, one of those two ways, or the negative route is that Haru makes or doesn't make the invitational time on the individual medley, but Ikuya just gets in a worse slump and doesn't make the time either. So either neither of them make it, Haru and him make it, or Ikuya makes it and Haru doesn't. So there's so many outcomes that this could take, and I feel like it should impact the story positively. If it goes well, if both of them make time, then it will give Ikuya and Haru a chance to talk, unless Akuya is just going to be a salty bitch and walk away and not talk to him, and then Natsuya is going to have to slap some sense into him. I don't know, but oh man, this episode has me so excited, and y'all know that 8's my lucky number. So the last series I've watched, the last couple of series that I have watched on this channel, episode 8 has been really good, and this episode leading up to it, oh, it's so wonderful. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Metamorphosis of Change, I think, was that what it was called? What was it called? Metamorphosis of the Soul. Oh, we're gonna get into this. And Ikuya smiled. There was a genuine smile from Ikuya in that preview. So my bingo card was not far off. We were just an episode or two away, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. It was still going to happen. But I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So yeah, speaking of this bingo card, let's do this. So Rin and Haru tying in a swim meet has not happened yet. But if we go to this All Japan Invitational, it very well could, and that will be my bingo. I'm pretty excited about that. Characters not had a heart-to-heart into the trees. We've been having heart-to-hearts everywhere else, on playgrounds and bars. We've clearly upgraded from high school days. Rin has not cried. Kasumi getting handsy with the main character. That baby was getting handsy with Kasumi, but not vice versa, so no. Mako helps a student learn to swim. You know what? Yeah. Mako has been helping that little kid from Take Your Marks. He's been helping him swim. So I'm gonna say yes. We're gonna say yes on that. That's true. Asahi and Ikuya argue at a swim meet. They didn't argue though. They made up at a swim meet. So I wish I'd worded that a little differently. I would have almost had a bingo, but you know what? Ikuya and Haru argue over who's angstier. We've not got that yet. Notori makes Momo captain. Rin's biting pun. No. So yeah, we've just got the Mako helping the kids swim. But I'm so close, guys. I'm like so close to a bingo. By the end of this season, I'd better get a bingo. I thought by now I'd have this whole thing filled up, but that's not happened. But by the end of this season, I need a bingo. So yes. And I think that will happen. We just got to get to it. But oh my god. What a great episode. I really, some of you commented back in episode 3, like way back in episode 3, some of you were commenting like, just wait till these next couple episodes, they're going to be fire. And I'm like, oh, but from episode 4 on, episode 4, 5, and 6, and now episode 7, these have all been so good. This is my favorite season so far. I don't know how it's going to end. Maybe I'll change my mind, but right now, I'm really liking this season an awful lot. So I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers, but yeah, to say that I am hyped for episode 8 is a bit of an understatement. So I'm excited. I hope y'all are too, but have a wonderful week. Please feel free to comment down below. I hope you enjoyed this reaction, and next week we will be back with episode 8 of Free Dive to the Future. Stay safe, guys, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.